Okay, carrying on, the Black Boys in Samoa, the story of Tui Kila. Okay, this is just if you're African American or black person who really wants to know the real story about the black people of Samoa, okay, this is it. I'm going to just tell you about it. And these are all highlights. If you want to know the book, it's called Tamauli. If you really want to go read the history of Samoa, go ahead and read it. It might help you out. But this is from this Melanesian point of view. And here I just highlighted some bits for people just to realize the mentality of the people back in those days. And you'll see right here again how he records strictly the rule against mixing with Samoans was enforced, but nevertheless he said the rules were broken. So this whole idea about you black people thinking that somehow Europeans would treat Samoans the same way as African Americans, no, they did not. Okay, and again I highlighted Tui remembers many interesting aspects of the relationship between Samoans and Melanesians. For example, Samoans believed that the Tamauli were powerful sorcerers and magicians. So here again, you'll find that Samoans have very stereotypical way of thinking of what black people are. And one of them is that they somehow perform voodoo or black magic. Tui also told a story about a beautiful Tupou, ceremonial virgin, the daughter of a high-ranking chief from the village of Samatu, who fell in love with a Melanesian and ran off with him. So again, you find this whole idea that maybe it was some sort of black magic that black people put on these Samoan women in order for them to fall in love with them. So, and again, he says a story about, he also recalls that cannibalism was practiced in Masui, not Samoa. This is back in Papua New Guinea. And he says he did not taste human flesh himself, but the old man said it was nice because it tasted like pork. If he really tasted like pork, then why waste it? So there you go, the attitude of the Melanesians and Samoans. This is why Samoans looked at Melanesians even today and think that they are uncivilized, because they still do this practice, this cannibalism. If you go to Papua New Guinea, you go to Congo, you go to any black nation, black people, anywhere, West Africa, they still practice this art of eating humans, and it's disturbing to me. And I can't be be a hypocrite, because my people used to practice it back in the days as well. Now this is chapter 6, which is more of a not trying to tell it from the point of view of the Germans, New Zealand, Samoans. And here I highlighted that under the Germans and the authoritarian manner of harsh punishment of German bosses, if were compared to the Chinese laborers in Samoa, the underprivileged status of the Melanesians become very apparent. So here you go, how the Chinese were actually treated much better by the Germans than the Melanesians. And again, here it shows again how the Chinese were seen to have equal rights as native Samoans. But in saying that, the Chinese, like the Melanesians, were forbade to fraternize with the Samoans. So, but like what he said, the rules were always broken. The Chinese-Samoan union between Chinese men and Samoan women must have been occurring in 1940. And here's the funny thing, right? You think this segregation would happen in Australia or whatever, but in Queensland, the Melanesians were better off in 1900. And I think it's because the white man had no problem with Melanesian men marrying Aboriginal women or marrying African American women. They didn't care. but for some reason they did care about them intermixing with women in Samoa. And then the Guardian Post in 1929 deals with an accusation made against the administrator by European leaders of the Mau. They allege that the Kiwis or New Zealanders were polluting Samoan racial purity by allowing Chinese and Melanesian workers to settle Samoa. So here you get the Germans and those of their descendants fighting back against the English. And there you go again. They did not want, they wanted to end the Chinese and the Melanesian workers coming into Samoa. But the New Zealanders wanted to keep it up because of they were making a lot of money. And this article carries on, and he thought that the best people to bring in Samoa were the Malays. Why? Because he thought they were harmonious with Samoans than with Negroes. So there you go. They would call you a Negro or nigger if they thought you looked like one. And that was what he thought about Melanesians. But New Zealand declined to continue to import Chinese labor, and we must assume that testimony of Tui Liko and Mala that after 1921 it was decided to hang on the remaining 146 Melanesians. So there was still a lot of Melanesians still living in Samoa to this day. It is not possible to keep the plantation up and they will go to ruin. So here you have the idea that even though they wanted to get rid of all these Melanesian Chinese workers, they couldn't, because if they got rid of them, then no one was going to do their plantation works. And all is clear in 1920 that 90% that many Europeans were. So again, another highlight of showing how they wanted the workers, but the Europeans, and this is New Zealand as well, did not like Melanesian and Samoan marriages. And that's the reason why the Germans had to segregate the Melanesians in 1914, so that they could keep these black Maluali men away from the Samoan women. And here we have the Samoan attitude of the Melanesians. And as you can see, it's typical of Samoan. As long as you got money, you got food, you got whatever, if you come to Samoans and you offer this to them, you know, they will embrace you. They don't care how you look, to be honest. And it's just the same as back in the days before Europeans came, how the Fijian chiefs would come try and exchange their mats in order to marry a Samoan woman. The Melanesians demonstrated solidarity and identification with the Samoans by supporting the Mau. So that was the whole idea. The Samoans wanted them to integrate the Melanesians in order to break the British power. The Samoa Times that during the 1920s contains so this is where all the racial hatred began, was between the Mau and the Melanesians, and that's why you get a lot of insults and racial wars between Samoans and Melanesians. And here's the most interesting bit, is that, as you can see, the church did not go and try to grab these Melanesians, try to convert them. They came to the church. And here you find, typical to there, is it back then, how the pastors would, embrace you and love you as long as you finance their house, their church. They will take your money. They do not care. And honestly, a lot of the churches that you see today is due to a lot of the Melanesians and even the Chinese who put their money in the church. So if you see all those big, massive churches, gotta thank Melanesian Chinese for that. And the attitude of Samoans, Melanesians, as you can see right over here, I'll do it another time. I end the stream now.